Public speaking is something that I'm not really good at all. In middle school and high school, whenever I had to give presentations, I found myself feeling really anxious all the time. Every time I had to stand in front of the classroom and present, my heart would be racing, I would be sweating, my voice would be shaking, and my whole body was essentially in fight or flight mode. I had it that everybody would be able to notice how anxious I was and notice all the mistakes and all the ways that I would mess up. This is something that hasn't left once I got to college either. In fact, I had actually signed up for this public speaking class with Dr. Graham in person, and a day before the class was supposed to start, I ended up dropping the class because of how anxious I was. If you're finding yourself relating to this, chances are you're not alone. According to an article by Dr. Pat Ladouceur, who has a PhD in sociology, published September 25th, 2024 on mentalhealth.com, says that the National Institute of Mental Health says that 75% of people have their number one fear as public speaking, with death being the second. That's pretty crazy, right? Well, this is something that affects a lot of people. Today, we're going to be learning about my top 5 recommendations to be successful in this class. They involve reading the required readings, watching the required videos, using the guided notes, managing your time, and practicing. My first recommendation is to read the required readings. When you look at these readings, they may seem pretty lengthy, which can seem overwhelming, but it's really important that you really utilize these readings. These readings include a lot of information that can be helpful for things like building your outline, increasing your credibility, adapting to your audience, and having good vocal delivery. I found that in one of the readings that we had to do, there was something that had talked about anxiety that people experience when it came to public speaking. And I found that I was able to implement those tactics into my own speeches. My second recommendation is to watch the required videos. Again, just like with the required readings, the videos are pretty long. I remember there were TED Talk videos that we had to watch that were around 20 minutes long sometimes. And I found myself thinking, do I really need to watch these videos? But these videos are really important. These videos contain information that are really helpful when it comes to building your speech. For example, there was a video that we watched that talked about how to increase your credibility. And this is something that wouldn't have been possible for me to know about had I not watched the videos. These videos are also helpful when it comes to doing your quizzes too. I found that there were times where I thought it was okay if I skipped over a couple of videos, but then I ended up having to go back and watch the videos because the quizzes would end up asking questions and related to them. Along with reading your Along with doing your readings and watching the videos, it's also important to take guided notes, which is my third recommendation. Doing the guided notes are really helpful when it comes to the readings and videos. They essentially lay out everything that you need to take notes on and are really helpful when it comes to organization. They're also helpful when it comes to the quizzes too. Instead of going back and forth individually when it comes to the readings and videos, using your guided notes as a guide are really helpful and help with saving time. My fourth recommendation is to learn to manage your time and not procrastinate. You have a lot of assignments that are due throughout the week, and I mean a lot. So it's really important that you learn how to manage your time and not fall behind. I remember there was a week when I thought it wouldn't be that big of a deal if I had procrastinated for a few days. I quickly realized this mistake when I found myself scrambling to do my assignments at the last minute. So it's really important that you learn how to manage your time. Something I recommend doing is building a schedule and fixing out time for how much time you would spend for doing your assignments. I found that with building a schedule, I was able to manage my time in a more sufficient way, and I was less likely to procrastinate. My fifth and most important recommendation is to practice your videos. I know you're probably gonna hate to hear this, but practicing your videos is really important. The first aspect of your speech involves doing the writing, and the second is for your delivery. When it comes to practicing, this goes to show that you understand your material, and this can also be helpful in finding things that you might need to improve on and just overall get better at. I found that when I would have to film my videos, I would often have to redo them a lot of the times because I was doing things like missing out on some pieces of information or I wasn't making enough eye contact. So doing with practicing your videos is really important and is a good way to ensure that you understand your material. Today we talked about my 5 recommendations to be successful in this public speaking class. We talked about reading the required readings, watching the required videos, using the guided notes, managing your time, and practicing your speech. Remember, 75% of people have a fear of public speaking. There are chances that somebody or you may know or you yourself may have a fear related to public speaking. When I first signed up for this class, I found myself doubting if I would even be able to pass. Now, if you were to tell me even a year ago that I'd be able to film videos and talk to my camera, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But taking this class has been able to help me so much, and I definitely have been able to see a lot of improvement with my speaking. And if I was able to combat my anxiety with public speaking, then you definitely are able to too. I hope that this video was able to be helpful, and I'm wishing you the best with this class because I know that you can do it. Good luck.